The Eater of Worlds. Despite being given this epic moniker since literally the inception of the game, the Eater of Worlds has never actually been able to eat worlds. Even his lesser spawn, the Eater of Souls, managed to live up to their name. As really annoying flying enemies, they're actually pretty good at eating your soul. However, the head honcho himself doesn't actually eat worlds, because the developers never gave him the ability to destroy blocks. But let's say the Eater of Worlds could actually eat worlds and destroy blocks. How long would it take for it to eat a world, and would it be any good at it? Well, let's see. Firstly, let's define eat. By saying the Eater of Worlds eats something, we say the Eater of Worlds basically destroys or eats every block that comes into contact with the front of its head. After all, that's where its one and only mouth is. A world is completely eaten when the entire world is gone, and every block has been graciously devoured by our wormy friend. So basically the problem boils down to looking at how long it takes for the Eater to touch every part of the world with his head. In order to do that, I need to know how fast the Eater of Worlds moves. Problem is, the Eater is very hard to measure in terms of speed, since he speeds up and slows down a lot, especially in the air. To solve this, I created a world entirely made of ebon stone, where I can observe the Eater tunneling in ideal conditions. After making a small air gap so that he could actually spawn, I led him away and turned no clip on so I could go through blocks, much like him. My goal is to see how long it takes for him to reach me from the center of the screen, from the edge of the screen, which would allow me to calculate his speed. There we go. From that recording, that time would be about 78 frames or 1.3 seconds. Specifically 78 frames from the edge of my screen to this line on my wings right here, which if you measure in-game comes to about 58 2/3 blocks, since that one block right here doesn't count. That makes out to be about 45.13 blocks per second, 90.26 feet per second, or about 165,354 furlongs per fortnight. For the metrically enlightened, that's 27.5 meters per second, or right around 99 kilometers an hour, roughly highway speed in most countries. I'll also round this 99 up to a nice even 100 kilometers an hour to account for possible measuring error, as well as the fact the Eater might not be perfectly straight in my observations. These calculations by no means going to be perfectly accurate, but we don't need microscopic precision anyway, so that's fine in this scenario. So, knowing that the Eater of Worlds' head is 23 pixels or 1.75 meters wide, that means at 100 kilometers an hour, the Eater is able to cover an area 1.75 meters by 100 kilometers wide in just 1 hour of eating. That's 175,000 square meters of eat per hour. Meanwhile, a large Terraria world filled in with blocks has an area of 7.491 million square meters if you include the out-of-bounds areas, meaning that this would theoretically take the Eater around 42 hours and 48 minutes to eat an entire large Terraria world if it were entirely filled in. Since most Terraria worlds are not entirely filled in, it would generally take less time. For example, a world that is say 80% filled in would only take 34 hours and 14 minutes to eat, and that's counting all those redundant caves he has to pass through without eating anything. I also haven't yet counted all the corners he has to make. After all, he's not just moving in a straight line and eating, he has to turn at the world border because our Terraria world is both flat and bounded. To say the Eater is quite slow at turning around would be an understatement, and he has to slow down quite a bit to make a 180-degree turn. If he takes a zigzag pattern, the amount of turns he has to take at the world border equals the height of the world divided by his own width, and in this case that equals 836 turns. If we assume the Eater is a slow bastard and each turn takes him about 3 seconds, that's another roughly 2,500 seconds we have to add to his time, making the worst case scenario for him 43 hours and 30 minutes, an 80% filled scenario, which also has 80% the turns, take 32 hours and 47 minutes. Essentially, the answer to this question for a large Terraria world is somewhere between 1.3 days and 1.8 days in real life time, depending on how full the world is. Seems fast, right? Well, if we convert this real-life time value into Terraria time, which the Eater would presumably live on, then we get a number from 78 days to 108 days. So, a few months. Honestly then, that's quite slow actually. Compared to the Eater of Souls, who take mere seconds or Terrarian minutes to feast on a soul, the Eater of Worlds takes days or Terrarian months to do so. What's even sadder is that Terraria's world isn't even the world. If you go to the ocean, you can see other islands off in the distance, so your world isn't really a world more than it is just an island. But I guess Eater of Islands doesn't sound as cool as Eater of Worlds. It would probably take the Eater of Worlds a literal eon to eat an actual world like the Earth, an object slightly larger than a Terraria world. Also, actual worlds like the Earth are 3-dimensional, and Eater of Worlds is either 2-dimensional or of unknown thickness, so it's basically impossible to say how long it would take for him to eat an actual world. But all of this is just a theoretical calculation. Back in reality land, it can't even destroy blocks, nor the world that you give it. It's not even an Eater of Islands like I said before, it's an Eater of nothing. No wonder some shorty in a tin can defeat using some bottles of dollar store liquor. If there's anything to learn about the Eater, it's that it really needs to get good, because it kinda sucks at its job. Hello, if you enjoy my content, a subscription to this channel is ever recommended. Here's some other random math videos I have. Either way though, thank you for watching, and good day and goodbye.